For the second week in a row, the UFC is staying in the Midwest. We go from Kansas City, Missouri, all the way up to Des Moines, Iowa. Back-to-back fight night cards in the Midwest. This time, it's Corey Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo. I'm not sure how much I really love the main event. I think it's a high-level fight. The card overall is a little bit top-heavy. I looked at the prelims and I thought, wow, this card is really, really bad. But then you get to the main card, and there's not some huge names, but I do think they're really solid matchups. Obviously, we got the return of Jeremy Stephens. We got Bo Nickal, Rainier DeRitter. Those are some solid fights. Montel Jackson, Daniel Marcos. I think that's a great bantamweight matchup. We'll talk about that. I'm going to go through and give you every single one of my early picks. This is before I dive into the tape. I'm basically giving you my early thoughts on every matchup based on what we know about the fighters, how I think the fight will probably play out. But then I got to dive in to the tape, do some more research, and then I'll give you my official picks later in the week on Wednesday. I think we're going to do another live stream to break down this card as well, because I thought that was pretty fun last week. I don't know if I'm going to do it on Monday. I might do it on Tuesday, just so I get a little bit more film in, and I can give you a live breakdown there. But stay tuned to the Hey Jai Picks YouTube channel to find out when that is going to be. Hit the like button for me on this video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Hit the notification bell as well. But before we get into this card, we got to recap UFC Kansas City. Overall, it was a profitable card. So we're up plus 2.59 units on the sportsbook bets. We hit the nice money line play on Timmy Kwamba. Money line play on David Onama. We lost the Carlos Prates bet, which was only 1 unit. He didn't look that great. I'll probably talk about that more tonight on my live stream, on the Sunday service live stream. I don't want to bore you with all that. If you're interested in my takes, join the Sunday service live stream tonight on Sunday, and I'll probably go dive deeper into that matchup with the chat, see what y'all are feeling. But we hit another nice prop on Timmy Kwamba by KO plus 625. I actually got a terrible line on that. I put it in pretty early in the week before most of the books dropped their props. I got it on Bet Online. And then later, when, all the other books dropped their props, it was like plus 800. So if you got it later in the week, you got a better line than I did, because I only got plus 625, but you really could have got plus 800 or at least higher than plus 625. But either way, nice hit there. Malcolm Wellmaker KO plus 350. Nice hit there. Randy Brown round 2 plus 850. That was nice as well. Plus 2.59 units on the sportsbook plays. And the DFS, we were down 1 unit. We went 5-3 overall on the picks. We hit 1 out of 3 slips, so we're down 1 unit. Sucks because I felt like we got screwed on 2 of these, and it really just came down to fight IQ. John Castaneda, I think he shot 1 takedown the entire fight. It was round 3 with like 2.5 minutes left, and he got it so easily. And he lost the fight on the feet. He lost most of the striking exchanges. I don't know why this guy didn't wrestle earlier in the fight. Just made absolutely no sense to me. The 1 takedown he went for, he got, but it was just too late. We had him higher than 1.5. He got 1. So that would have been a nice hit there to put us in the profit. And then Alatang Lee, I just didn't understand the guy's game plan. You're getting outstruck by Damon Blackshear pretty easily. Don't know why he didn't try to mix it in with some takedowns. I get why Damon didn't look to wrestle, just because he was winning so easily on the feet. But usually that's something that he goes to. A fight where there was pretty much no grappling and all striking, a lower than 32.5 is probably not going to hit if it goes to the scorecard. So we lost 1 unit on the DFS. Wasn't a great week for DFS, but either way, it's not a huge loss either. We've been crushing it there, and I expect us to have a nice little bounce back up, some money on the DFS next week. So overall, or not UFC 314, UFC Kansas City, we're positive 1.59 units in net profit, boosting our total in 2025 to plus 41.55 units. If you want all my bets, jump in the Homify Picks Premium membership. There's a link down in the description below. Use code HeyJive. You'll get a 5-day free trial. And if you're one of these guys that's going to comment or message me later in the week when I give you the DFS plays for free, being like, oh, the lines are bumped. The reason that they get bumped is because I put them in on usually Monday, sometimes Sunday. It just depends when they drop. I put them in whenever they drop. And then, of course, they're going to adjust them because those are the softest lines. I'm going to play the softest lines, and then they're going to adjust them because they have my account. They know I'm profitable in this, and they're going to adjust them based on what I play. So I put them in there. I send them out to the Homify Picks Premium membership. And then later in the week, I'll give them out for free. They're usually bumped. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the perk of being in the Home Fight Picks Premium membership, as well as all the other bets. I want a 7-week winning streak. So 7 weeks in a row, we've been profitable. It's a great streak. It is maybe one of the better streaks that I've had. I think there was a time in 2024 or 2023 where I was like 10 or 11 weeks in a row. But we're just steady profit here, man. I mean, we picked up not a huge win on UFC Kansas City, but it's a win nonetheless. And those little wins will stack up. 7 weeks in a row. Join the Home Fight Picks Premium membership. And I'm going to let you take a look at this if you want to. If you don't want to, then just scroll through this. But here's the macro. So I'm always transparent with all my stuff. I took myself off the screen here, but I'm always transparent with everything. Keep track of everything. These are the total results in 2025. So you can see, the total amount of bets, the units bet, the ROI, the average bet size. So as you can see, I'm not a huge unit better. I mean, my average bet is 0.82 units. So it's not even 1 unit. We're at 23.95% ROI, and we're positive 41.55 units. So if you haven't joined the Home Fight Picks Premium membership, I don't know what you're doing yet. 7-week winning streak, over 20% ROI. We're absolutely crushing it. Join up there. Link down in the description. Below, use code HeyJive, and you get a 5-day free trial. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the fights. All right, we got Juliana Miller and Ivana Petrovic. I don't know if it could start off worse, honestly. When I look at a fight that could start a fight night card, this is about as low level as it gets. And I thought Jocelyn Edwards, Chelsea Chandler last week was going to be bad, but this is worse. Okay, Juliana Miller, she sucks. She absolutely sucks. Like, she shouldn't be in the UFC. I mean, she's 3-3 in her professional MMA career. And on the other hand, Ivana Petrovic, I don't think is that good either. But I think Ivana Petrovic should be able to win this fight. Juliana Miller's striking is so bad, it looks like at times she likes getting hit. There's no head movement. Her striking is all arms. There's no hips into it. Her kicks aren't even good. Really, her only good part of her game is her jiu-jitsu. And I don't think it's that good either because she's not a great wrestler, so she can't get the fight to the ground. And if she does get taken down, she has some jiu-jitsu off her back, but it's not like deadly. It's not deadly to where, if she's throwing up triangles and arm bars, you're in trouble. Like, she's not going to just latch something up super quickly and get you out of there. Now, she's been off for it's been about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. So maybe she's made some improvements, but from what I've seen on her socials, she's not really grinding in the gym. She's out here doing like these announcing things where she's like Bruce Buffer on the regional scene. If I was a regional MMA fighter and I got Juliana Miller announcing my name, I would have to rethink my career because that is just a low level. So I don't know how, serious Juliana Miller takes her career. She's 3-3 in her professional record. So at this point, she's probably like, well, maybe I'm not cut out for this and I'll just try to capitalize on, stuff within the sport. And my overall fighting career is probably just not going to go anywhere. So I don't know where she's at. Maybe she's made some improvements. We will see. But I think Ivana Petrovic should be good enough to win here. Her striking, not great, but her offensive wrestling is decent. Her grappling is decent. So I think it'll probably be enough for her to get a win. I'll take Ivana Petrovic for the early pick just because Juliana Miller is that bad. Don'Tale Mayes, Thomas Petersen. I looked at this one and I was like, I always try to look at the matchups and I try to think of the line before I actually see it. And I thought Thomas Petersen would probably be like a slight favorite, maybe about -140, -150. And then I see he's -240. And I'm like, I know Don'Tale. I've always hated Don'Tale Mayes. Like, I've always thought he's an absolute bum. But I'm not like super impressed with Thomas Petersen either. Like, I think he's got a nice offensive wrestling style that could win him a lot of fights because a lot of heavyweights just don't know how to wrestle. And Don'Tale Mayes has shown an inability to wrestle, which is probably why he's a -240 favorite here. But Don'Tale's a big dude. He's a big dude that if he can use his frame, he can keep Thomas Petersen at the end of his punches and win most of the striking exchanges. Now, I think Thomas Petersen's striking has improved a little bit. His head movement has gotten a little bit better. I think it was the fight with Jamal Pogues where he was just, head on the center line the entire fight, Jamal Pokes was just popping him with jabs the entire fight and won the fight that way. But in all reality, I think Thomas Petersen probably does get the takedowns. You know, forward pressure, his boxing, I think, is improved. He should be able to get on the inside, get to the single leg, drop him down to the ground, and go to work from there. So I'm going to take Thomas Petersen for the early pick. But, you know, Dontel Mace has the frame. He does have some pop in his hands, but I just have always thought like he has some potential. He just sucks. Like he's just a dope. He's just a dope out there. Like he's stupid. He doesn't really go for it. His fight IQ sucks. He's just a decently athletic 6'6", 81-inch reach type of guy that like has some intangibles, but he's just a dope out there. Doesn't really know how to fight. So I think Thomas Petersen's skills plus fight IQ plus he knows what he's good at will probably get him the win here. So I'll take Thomas Petersen for the early pick. Let's move on. Gaston Bolanos and Quang Lee. Quang Lee took an absolute beatdown his last time out against Long Zhao, and that was kind of an eye-opening thing. And I don't really blame Quang Lee too much because I actually think Long Zhao is fairly decent. He went to a close competitive decision with Chang Ho Lee, who looks like he's actually pretty damn good. And then he absolutely beat the brakes off of Quang Lee. I think it was a round 3 KO, but he just looks so much faster than Quang Lee. Quang Lee's 33 with 10 fights. I just don't know that he's really got much potential left. Like, I think we saw his ceiling, and that ceiling was an entry-level UFC fighter in Long Zhao, and he got the brakes beat off him. So I don't think Quang Lee has much potential in the UFC. On the other hand, Gaston Bolanos, I think he can win some fights because he's a dangerous striker. I think his grappling is improving. Like, at least Gaston Bolanos has a solid base in striking, and his weakness has always been his ground game. But you can kind of improve that. And every fight starts on the feet. I think Bolanos will be sharper with the kicks. He does get hit a little bit, which is kind of weird. He's a Muay Thai striker, but he's got these flashy techniques, which can kind of leave himself out there to get hit at times. Quang Lee's got a nice right hand, decent left hook, but I don't really think he puts it together all that much. And his offensive grappling, I don't think is great. Like, if he gets the back of Bolanos, your cheeks might be puckered, but I don't know that he's going to just go in there and, submit Gaston Bolanos the first time he gets his back. I think it'd probably have to be extended periods of grappling and then work his way towards the finish. So I'll take Gaston Bolanos for the early pick, just not super high on Quang Lee. I think the line's pretty fair. When I looked at it, I thought Bolanos would be about -160. -185 is a tad bit high, but, after some tape study, I might be able to look at that and validate it. I'll take Gaston Bolanos for the early pick, though. Let's move on. Women's MMA, women's strawweights. We got Marina Rodriguez, 1-4 in her last 5. She's a big dog here. Jillian Robertson, 3-fight win streak. She looks like she has found her weight class, but this is another step up. And she's -280. Now, her last fight against Luana Pinheiro, I forget what she closed at, but it was like -400, -500, I want to say. And she was expected to go in there and get the finish because Pinheiro had been finished in like her last 2 fights. She just didn't look that good. And she's kind of known as a gasser a little bit. And she couldn't get the finish. She won it, arguable 30-27, 29-28. So the second round, I think, was the closest round. But, I don't know that Jillian Robertson should be this big of a favorite. Like, I know Marina Rodriguez's kryptonite has always been grappling. But she's always found a way to survive that grappling, and she's made some fights close when she's getting grappled up. Like against Yasmin Lucindo, it was a 29-28 split decision loss. I think that was her last fight. She fought Verna Jandiroba. She got 30-27, but she didn't get submitted. And I think Verna Jandiroba is a better submission grappler than Jillian Robertson. Now, it might not look that way when you look at, how many submissions they have gotten. And I know Jillian Robertson's very dangerous on the ground, but I think Verna is like a much stronger grappler, and she has better takedowns. So she has a better way to get the fight to the ground. I think Jillian's going to struggle getting this fight to the ground. Like, she's kind of relies on her single legs And Marina's a tall girl. If you're going to pick single legs on a tall fighter, you got to be really strong with them because they can just bounce on that leg, get the leg out, and then they're back in the striking. I think you got to like blast double Marina Rodriguez. You got to clinch her up and trip her. I don't know that Jillian Robertson has that in her bag. Like her wrestling is improving, but let's just be honest. Like she has to get this fight to the ground to win it, and she can get the fight to the ground. But if Marina Rodriguez can survive, minimize the damage, do some damage on the feet, then I think this could go to a close decision. And Marina is 38. Don't love that. Massive age advantage for Jillian. She's only 29, almost 30. So about an 8 years younger than Marina Rodriguez. So there's the upside there for Jillian. I expected Jillian to be a favorite, but I didn't expect it to be this big. I thought Jillian would be minus 160, minus 170, minus 280 is a little bit too much. I do think Jillian will probably win, but I just think it's going to play out a little bit closer than the odds entail. So for the early pick, I'll take Jillian Robertson. I got to look at this one more because I think there is some upside with Marina Rodriguez at plus 230 because I think it'll be a close fight. I think it'll probably go to a decision. But for now, I'll take Jillian Robertson for the official pick. I think she'll probably get the win. I got to look into it a little bit more, though. Azamat Bekoev and Ryan Loder. It's an interesting one because both guys have one fight in the UFC. I don't know. Is it technically a UFC fight? Loder versus Valentin? Maybe that was the Ultimate Fighter finale. It was in the UFC. Either way. Maybe this will be the first time he wears the UFC official Venom shorts, but he's a good wrestler. I think his striking is a little bit, slow. He kind of relies on his kicks. He's one of those wrestlers that'll just kick from the outside, kind of force you to try to enter with some boxing and then level change. And when he gets you down to the ground, he's pretty strong. Bekoev got the better striking, in my opinion. I think he's more dangerous there. I think his hands are more powerful. I think his wrestling, maybe not on the level of Ryan Loder, but, we've kind of seen these American wrestlers get kind of exposed, man. Like, let's just say Ryan Loder doesn't get his first takedown. Bekoev just stuffs it right away. That's probably going to fuck with Ryan Loder a little bit in his head. Be like, oh, shit, this isn't going to go well. And I think Bekoev can stuff most of the wrestling. The problem is, he went to a pretty close competitive decision with Dylan Budka. And Dylan, I know it was it's not like a long time ago, but Dylan Budka did not pan out in the UFC. And his only win in the UFC is Zachary Reese, which kind of bashed him in the back of the head. It was a round 1 KO. So I'm not going to get too high on Bekoev, but I do think he's probably the more complete fighter. I could understand, taking a shot on Ryan Loder at plus 260 just because if with the right game plan, I think he could maybe win this fight. But I think Bekoev is probably the little bit more well-rounded fighter in here, more professional experience, really had to earn his way on the regional scene. So I'm going to take Bekoev for the early pick, but it's a little bit pricey at minus 360. Loder's not really a chinny guy, so I don't think Bekoev is just going to go out there and starch him in the first. And even if he does, hurt him a little bit, Ryan Loder can wrestle, clinch up, get back to his range. At least he has some striking in his bag where he can be somewhat effective at range with his kicks. So at least, Loder's got that going for him. But for now, I got to go with the early pick as Azamat Bekoev to get it done. Yana Santos, Miesha Tate. I believe this is the feature prelim. And when it's a women's MMA feature prelim, I always hate that. And of course, if Miesha Tate's going to be on the card, they're always going to try to throw her into some type of highlight spot because she has the name. But she's 38. She's had, her last fight was in 2023, which is almost 2 years ago. I think it was July of 2023 or somewhere around there. She got a win, though, and it was a pretty dominant win. But it was against Julian Avila, and Julia Avila is pretty fucking bad. Pretty fucking bad. Yana Santos, coming off a win, it was against Chelsea Chandler, and Chelsea Chandler is pretty fucking bad. So both girls are coming off wins, but they're against absolutely terrible opponents. So I don't really know where to put them in their career. I think Yana Santos has the chance to win this fight with her kicks, her movement. But if Miesha Tate can get her grappling going, she could probably make it look easy because Yana Santos' takedown defense is not very good. Excuse me, I'm burping from the Zinachino. Yana Santos' takedown defense is not very good. And that was her downfall against, another legend of the game in Holly Holm. Thank God Holly Holm is not in the UFC anymore. But maybe she might come back because the GFL is not looking good. So that sucks. But Miesha Tate, if she can get her grappling going, I think she wins. Does she get her grappling going? Probably. Because Yana Santos' takedown defense is not good. And off her back, she's not going to threaten with any type of submissions. She's not really going to sweep you. And offensively, if she tries to wrestle Miesha Tate, I don't think it's going to go well. Yana Santos' only way to win this fight, strike from the outside, get her up in the clinch, defend all the takedowns. It's possible. It's possible. I think this is a pretty closely lined fight, and I kind of agree with the odds. I would put Miesha Tate as a slight favorite, so I think that's about accurate. I'm going to take Miesha Tate for the early pick because I do think she gets her grappling going, and I think she wins there. But two old ladies coming off wins against absolute bums, not very active, probably better to lay off of this one. Now, before we get into the main card, once again, I want to remind you, want all my bets, jump in the Normal Fight Picks Premium membership, positive 41.55 units in 2025, absolutely crushing it this year. Code HeyJive gets you a 5-day free trial. And if you need a sports book, jump on Wager Attack. It's available in all 50 states. You get a 200% free play bonus on your deposit and a 10% cash bonus on crypto. So if you deposit $100, you're going to get $200 in free play, which you can use right away, and the 10% cash bonus on crypto. So if you deposit $100, you're going to get $10 added to your available balance if you use crypto. It's available in all 50 states. They got thousands of props to choose from on Saturday. Usually they put them out on Friday, sometimes Saturday morning, but they got so many props, it's ridiculous. It's kind of a lot to look at, but everything that you could even imagine is pretty much on there. If you need a sports book, you got to have multiple in your arsenal. Link down in the description below. Hop on Wager Attack, add it to your arsenal. And if you didn't know, I dropped my merch, my Professor Parlay merch. It's on ProfessorParlayShop.com. They're super high quality tees. I'm not trying to make a killing off this. I just thought it would be fun to throw something out there. If you want to support me, if I've ever made you money and you want to support me, this is an easy way because you get a high quality product that you can wear with pretty much anything. It's black and white. This is the back. And then on the chest, it just says Professor Parlay, kind of like right here. Probably should have been wearing it in the video, but whatever. And for a limited time, I'm only going to give this code out to 2 people. So if you're watching here on YouTube, you go to ProfessorParlayShop.com and you go to checkout, use code YouTube, and you'll get $20 off your order. It's only available for 2 people. The code can only be used twice. So you got to go out there and get it done early. Get it done now, pretty much, because I'm sure some people will be chomping at the bit to get these. Very limited stock as well. Use code YouTube. You get $20 off your order, which pretty much means I'm going to take a fat loss on this shirt. But I'm going to give it to you guys because I like you guys. I love the YouTube community. I appreciate y'all for your support. Use code YouTube to get $20 off your purchase. ProfessorParlayShop.com. It's only available for 2 uses. Go get it now. There's a link down in the description below as well to get your tee. Let's get into the main card. We got Jeremy Stephens and Mason Jones. I didn't expect Mason Jones to be this big of a favorite, but I did expect him to be a favorite. I guess it just has a lot to do with, Jeremy Stephens' age, Jeremy Stephens' recent MMA record. I guess overall just Jeremy Stephens, where he's at in his career. I thought, with a little bit of hype from the BKFC wins, that he would come in here and be somewhat respected by the books, but it doesn't look like it. He's coming back to the UFC, obviously. He left the UFC, he went to the PFL, didn't do well in the PFL. I believe he's signed to the GFL as well. I don't know what the fuck is going on, dude. What is going on with this? I don't know. I don't understand the GFL, but Jeremy Stephens, you know what he's going to do. He's going to march you down, boxing combinations, hard-nosed. That's just what he's going to do. He's not really going to mix up any grappling. He's going to try to knock your head off. BKFC is his sport. I don't know why he's coming back to the UFC, but I guess it makes sense because, he's a Midwest guy. Card's coming back. He's got a little bit of hype from the BKFC stuff. The UFC's bringing back some guys, so it's cool. But I think Mason Jones gets this one done. I've always been kind of a Mason Jones believer, and I didn't really understand why he got cut from the UFC because his losses in the UFC are Mike Davis, who's a good fighter, and Ludovic Quang, who is also a good fighter. He goes back to the regional scene, 4 wins in a row, dominating the Cage Warriors scene over there, which is pretty much expected because, you know, if you're a solid UFC guy and you go back to Cage Warriors, you're going to absolutely cook them. Not a Cage Warriors believer, but I do think Mason Jones is pretty good. I'm going to take Mason Jones to get this one done for the early pick. I didn't expect him to be minus 480. I thought he would be minus 200, minus 250. This is pretty heavy for a guy that's coming back to the UFC against, you know, a vet of the sport. But I understand it. I think Mason Jones is much better overall fighter. I think he can get his grappling going. I think he can outstrike him on the feet with his kicks. Solid movement. He's durable. I don't know that Jeremy Stephens is... I think Jeremy Stephens' path to victory is probably a knockout. I don't think he's going to win a lot of minutes. Mason Jones probably going to win those. Mason Jones probably by decision. Or he could just, you know, starch him with something. You know, Jeremy Stephens has been through it, but he's been fairly durable throughout his career. Mason Jones is going to be the early pick. It's a fun fight. Fun fight, though. You know, I like to see both guys coming back to the UFC. It's cool, but I think Mason Jones gets it done. Cameron Smotherman and Sidey. I like this fight. I do, because I think Sidey, I think it's a good matchup stylistically, just because I think it'll be pretty close and competitive. Cameron Smotherman, a lot of volume. A lot of volume, fast hands, smooth striker. I think his takedown defense has gotten a lot better. He's not really a guy that's going to go in there and be shooting takedowns. He's not going to, you know, look to grapple, but I think he can defensively grapple. And his overall volume, pace, and smoothness with his hands wins him a lot of fights. He kind of overwhelms you with a lot of stuff. But Sidey, on the other hand, guy that kind of likes to fight more at range. He's a solid striker as well, pretty durable. His grappling is, it's not amazing, but at times he can be effective with it. Like he can take you down. He can win some minutes from up top, but he's not going to, you know, threaten with a bunch of submissions. He's not going to take you down and work towards a submission. It's more so of, you know, the striking's getting a little bit too close for me, or I'm losing the striking. I'll mix in a level change and try to win the fight that way. So at least he's got a backup plan if his striking isn't going that well. But if the striking isn't going well for Sidey in this fight, I don't know that he's going to just take down Cameron and smother him. LOL. I think Cameron can win this fight. I think Cameron can win this fight with his volume, with his activity. I've never been a huge believer in Sidey. I thought he should have lost to Garrett Armfield. I thought he should have maybe won against Ramon Tavares. And Ramon Tavares is kind of a similar matchup to a Cameron Smotherman, where, you know, Smotherman's more of a boxer. He does have some kicks. I still don't know how Cameron Smotherman got knocked out by Karolampus Gregorius, the dude that came into the UFC and just was an absolute bum. Wild stuff, even though I bet on Karolampus Gregorio in that spot. He won as an underdog on the Contender Series. But I think Cameron Smotherman has grown from that. It was kind of a weird knockout, too. He got knocked down, but I think he was still there, and it was somewhat of an early stoppage. But I think Cameron Smotherman can win this fight. I think he can win it with his volume. I got to watch some more tape on it, though, because, you know, Smotherman's last fight against Jake Hadley. Shout out to Jake Hadley just because everyone says I look like him. Take the hat off. Yeah, I look like fucking Jake Hadley, I guess. It's just the bald head. I don't talk like him, though. He's got a fucking weird-ass voice, okay? Cameron Smotherman's last fight against Jake Hadley, I didn't really get to watch too much because I was busy doing something, so I want to watch that one back, but he was a big dog there, and he pretty much just overwhelmed Jake Hadley with his volume. I think there was a lot of fouls in that one, too. But either way, early pick, I'm going to take Cameron Smotherman just because I think he can outwork him on the feet. He's got to watch out for those kicks, though. Sidey's kind of a kick merchant, but if he can get past those, I think his boxing is a little bit cleaner. Great fight here. Montel Jackson, Daniel Marcos. I was somewhat shocked to see the line because when I looked at this matchup, I see, you know, Daniel Marcos 17-0. I was like, you know, he'll probably be a minus 120, minus 130 favorite just because the books tend to, you know, favor the guy that's on a win streak, a little bit more active, undefeated, but not the case. Montel Jackson is minus 200. Montel Jackson, man, the Milwaukee native. Doesn't get more Milwaukee than Montel Jackson. I could tell you that as a Wisconsinite. The guy is good, though. The Montel Jackson is good because he is huge for the weight class. He is strong. He has a nasty left hand. And he's dangerous at all points. Like it's so hard to get inside and be effective because he's so long and he's got power and his wrestling is pretty solid as well. His ground game is solid. Earlier in his career was getting taken down quite a bit, but I don't know that Daniel Marcos is going to be coming in here and looking for takedowns. Daniel Marcos is a pure kickboxer majority. And if he's just going to kickbox with Montel Jackson, like, sure, he could probably win some minutes by like slapping some leg kicks, but I think Montel's kickboxing is good enough to deal with Daniel Marcos. I think he's more dangerous than Daniel Marcos. And I've always loved Daniel Marcos' style because it's high volume. He cracks you with leg kicks. His striking is very fluid, but I do think this is a tough matchup. So I kind of do agree with the odds. I think I don't think he should be minus 200, but I do kind of think Montel Jackson wins. I think Montel Jackson's probably the more complete fighter, more dangerous fighter. And Daniel Marcos' path to victory here would probably be outpointing him to a decision, using his movement, kind of frustrating Montel. I don't want to say it, but it's just first thing that comes to mind is kind of like an Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates. Like you got the knockout puncher in Montel Jackson, or the tactician in Daniel Marcos. So maybe Marcos does find a way to do that, but for now I'm gonna side with Montel Jackson as the early pick. I gotta watch some more tape though, because Montel's not a very active fighter, and that's been kind of his downfall because he's on a nice winning streak. KOing a lot of these guys, but some of those are low-level competition, and now this is like his time to get somewhat of a high-profile guy, undefeated guy with a lot of momentum. And I don't know if he's going to rise to the occasion or not, but for now I'm going to take Montel Jackson for the early pick. We got to get one of these every card. We get the old men. All right, we got Santiago Ponzinibbio and Daniel Rodriguez, both 38. And I got to give it to the UFC. At least they're matching up Santiago with like guys his age. Because last time against Carlson Harris, he was an older guy. Muslim Salikov, older guy. So at least they're giving him fights to where they can be fun and competitive, but he's not going up against these young killers. Santiago, you can never count him out because he is down to throw. He can get hurt, but he has some decent recoverability. I remember in round 1, I think Carlson Harris had dropped him, and I was like, yeah, that's it. But Santiago just found a way to survive and then just continues to march forward, continues to throw bombs, and he got him out of there in round 3. I think it was a great performance to at least see from Santiago that, if he's getting drops, like he's not just going to cower away and give up at his age of 38. He's still in there to fight. So that's good for Santiago. On the other hand, for D-Rod, I think D-Rod is on a pretty steep decline, honestly. I think D-Rod looks slow. I don't think his punches really affect anyone anymore. And his last fight against Alex Morono, I remember I had a bet on D-Rod, and I was like, God, D-Rod, like, Alex Morono can't hurt you with anything, but he's kind of hitting him with shots, and D-Rod's not really reacting to it too well. And D-Rod ultimately won the fight off of volume. Morono gasses after 7.5 minutes. His cardio is still always pretty solid. He does tend to slow down a little bit, but that's really only if you're wrestling him, and I don't really expect Santiago to wrestle him. Maybe he's got it in his bag, so it's always something you got to keep in the back of your mind. Like, D-Rod's not going to go out there and wrestle anybody. He's just going to go out there, box with you, throw a lot of volume, and hope to kind of overwhelm you and outlast you with some cardio in a striking battle. But Santiago, I think, is going to be more dangerous on the feet. I think he could knock out D-Rod, or at least hurt him. If he wants to go to the grappling, I think he could do that. So I'm going to take Santiago Ponzinibbio to get this one done. He'll be my early pick. I got to look at it a little bit more, but I might be placing a bet on him, if he's going to be around, plus 105 as a slight dog. I think that makes a lot of sense to, take a stab on Santiago. But, Santiago can get chinned by anybody. He was an absolute killer at one point, but then he had some injury or illness or whatever, and he's just never been the same. But he's still the killer is still there with Santiago. Okay, I'll take Santiago for the early pick. Let's move on. Co-main event: Reinier de Ridder, Bo Nickal. We've talked about this a little bit on the channel before in the live streams. I'm not sold on Bo Nickal. Like, I'm not sold on this American wrestler who's been a national champion and he's just going to come in here and absolutely destroy everybody. And I think this is a tough matchup, man. I think it's a tough matchup because Reinier de Ridder is a legit grappler. Like, legit grappler, 6'4". I think his weight against Kevin Holland was 215. Like, I think he gained 30-some pounds. Like, he gets in there big. And Bo Nickal, he's not a small guy by any means, but he's given up 3 inches in height, couple inches in reach. And if he can't get takedowns, he could probably outstrike Reinier de Ridder, but is it going to look like a runaway fight? Probably not. If he does get takedowns on Reinier, is he kind of playing into Reinier de Ridder's game? Because, if you take down Reinier de Ridder, he's not going to be like panicking. He kind of wants to fight on the ground. So you got a guy in Bo Nickal whose lifelong base is the wrestling, and he's learning how to strike. And I do have to give him a lot of credit because being that good at wrestling, you can tell this guy, he's a pure athlete. Like, he picks up on stuff very quickly. And I think his striking is getting better. We've seen the improvements, and it's only going to get better. It's not going to get worse. He outstruck Paul Craig to a decision. Cool. Most UFC caliber fighters within the top 40 of the division should be able to outstrike Paul Craig. Can he outstrike Reinier de Ridder? Probably. Like, Reinier de Ridder's not a great striker, but I would say Reinier de Ridder's probably a better MMA fighter than Paul Craig, so maybe Reinier de Ridder can look to take this fight to the ground. I'm not really super impressed with Bo Nickal's wrestling either. Like, you watch him in an MMA fight, Cody Brundage is shucking him off on takedowns. He's like having to knee Jamie Pickett in the nuts to get a takedown. Not a great look there. So I'm not super sold on Bo Nickal. And I'm kind of surprised to see Bo Nickal at minus 280 just because all the hype around Bo Nickal is like, he just marches through everybody like it's free money anytime this guy fights. And, in the past, absolutely, because he's been going up against low-level competition. I expected Bo Nickal to be like minus 500, minus 600 just based on pure narrative, not based on skill set. I think minus 280 for Bo Nickal is probably about right, maybe a little bit rich just because it's a huge step up in competition. Reinier de Ridder has fought a lot of good competition, and I think he's a solid fighter. I'm going to take Bo Nickal for the early pick. I got to watch some more tape on this one. I'm just going to lean with Bo Nickal, like just ride him until he loses probably, just as far as my pick goes. There might be some value on Reinier de Ridder, maybe by sub. But overall, I think Bo will probably be able to win the striking exchanges, stay safe on the ground, probably get a win. So I'll take Bo Nickal for the early pick. Just not completely sold on the guy. Let's move on to the main event. Corey Sandhagen, Davison Figueiredo. When I saw they announced UFC Des Moines and it was Davison Figueiredo, I was like, what in the hell? Because I'm from Wisconsin. I was right there, okay? Not many Brazilians around these parts of the Midwest. And I'm like, dude, does Iowa even know what a Figueiredo is? Like, do they even know who this guy is? He's a legend in Brazil, legend in the fight game. But for the average guy in Iowa, that's like, oh, the UFC's coming into town. And he buys his tickets, and he's like, Davison Figueiredo. I don't even know how to say it because I know how to say it. But they probably just don't even know who this fucking guy is. And then they give him Corey Sandhagen, who's like, looks like he could be a Midwester. So I guess it makes sense on the Corey Sandhagen part. But Davison Figueiredo fighting in Des Moines is just kind of funny to me. I just had to put it out there. But either way, Figueiredo's a big underdog here, which kind of shocked me. But when the fight got announced, I was like, Corey Sandhagen should win. He should absolutely win this fight. So I guess I could see why he's a favorite and why he's somewhat of a heavy favorite. I just don't know where Davison Figueiredo wins. Like, I think Corey Sandhagen can win most of the striking exchanges. I don't think Figgy's going to be knocking out Corey. I think Corey's movement is too good. I think he's going to outwork Figgy on the feet. I think he's going to out-volume him a lot. I think he can defend all the takedowns. Corey can probably get some offensive takedowns as well. And I don't really see Figgy, you know, snatching up a submission. So I think Corey Sandhagen wins this fight. I mean, I probably wouldn't back him at minus 450. I think it's a high-level fight. And I wouldn't really be, you know, completely sold on Corey, but I do think he wins. Like, the only real concern for me is that Corey at times can just try to be too technical. Like, he's in there just trying to put these potions together. I'm like, bro, just fucking fight. Like, he's trying to stance switch, leg kick. He's almost like he's thinking too much, or he's trying to be too technical. Just go out there and fight. Like, you're a really good fighter. You have all the skills in the world. Like, you defended most of Umar's takedowns. You negated most of his wrestling. And he's just out there thinking too much, just pretty much just leg kicking and stance switching. It's like, fucking go for it, bro. Like, you have the skills. You have the skills. Just go out there and fight. At times, he just doesn't. But I do think he's the more skilled fighter. I think he's going to get a win here against Davis and Figueiredo. I'll take Corey Sandhagen for the early pick. And that's going to do it for the video. I appreciate y'all for watching. Like the video for me. Subscribe to the channel. Turn the notification bells on. Sunday service tonight. I'll probably do a live breakdown again on either Monday or Tuesday. Stay tuned for that. Official picks video out on Wednesday. Best bets video on Thursday. Long shots only live show on Friday. It's going to be a good week. We're back in the action. I appreciate y'all. Till next time. Hey, job picks. We out.